Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today we have a 2015, it's a Infiniti Q50. We're going to be changing the rear brakes and the rear rotors. As you can see, I did start taking the left side apart already, just so I can work out the number for the customer. The rotors are no good. We need to change the rotors because they were grinding. So I'm going to bring you over on the right side, and we're going to take it apart start to finish and get that right side done. And that's it. So I'm going to bring you over here. I'm going to show you what tools you're going to need and the exact procedure to get this job done. So all right, let's go over there. I'll show you what to do and how to get it done. Okay, this is an example of what kind of tools you're going to need. You're going to need a set of sockets. Even though you can see here I already have my sockets out because I did take the other side apart. We need a 14 millimeter to take the caliper off, and we need a 19 millimeter to remove the mounting bracket from the car so we can remove the rotor. We're going to need a hammer, of course, to persuade the rotor to come off, and we're going to use a pry bar like this to pop that off. We're going to need a little pry bar to pry the brake pads back into position, a new set of brake pads, a new set of hardware, which I always change whenever I do a brake job. We're going to need some brake cleaner and a rag to wipe off the rotor because the new rotor comes covered in oil when you get it. Some silicone brake grease, and of course my OTC Spectrum light that comes in very handy when you're doing a job like this. So, all right, let's get up there and let's get started. Okay, before we go any further, I just want to point this out to you because I've had this discussion already with customers. They put the brakes on their car, put the new rotors on, and for some reason the wheels won't turn. So before you replace a rotor with a new one, always match it up to make sure that your rotor is the same exact rotor. I can't tell you how many times I get them from the parts store and they're the wrong ones. Make sure that the height of the rotor is the same. Make sure that the rotor diameter is also the same. Make sure it lines up exactly, because I've had it already where they're not the right ones. It's off just a quarter of an inch, and that quarter of an inch makes a big deal. All right, so make sure that that everything lines up properly before you do it. And like I said, you can see that this is covered with that oily residue on here. We are going to use the brake cleaner to clean this all off here, and also where the parking brakes go inside here, and on the other side right there. Now this rotor is the one from the other side, so we didn't start doing the right side yet. We're going to do that together. So all right, let me explain what we're going to do, and then we're going to do it. Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to come in here with a pry bar, small little pry bar. We're going to put it in through the back right over here, and we're going to pry this caliper back to push this piston back inside over here. It saves us from having to do that later. We're going to remove that 14 millimeter there, and we're going to remove that 14 millimeter right there, and we're going to take this caliper, put it off to the side, and then we're going to take this mounting bracket off, which has two 19 millimeter bolts. One is right there, and the other's down the bottom. So, and then I'll show you how to get that rotor off. Fairly easy. We just bang it a few times with a hammer and a pry bar, and it pops right off. All right, let's get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is take our pry bar, put it in the back over here like this, and just keep constant pressure on it. And you can see that it slowly pushes that piston back into the bore. All right, so now our piston is pushed back into the bore as far as it can go. You want to make sure that these slide pins here are not frozen. And the way you do that is just move your caliper back and forth. If it slides nice and freely without any binding whatsoever, then you know your slide pins here are okay. All right, then we're going to take our 14 millimeter ratchet, put it on over here. And then we're going to break it loose. And once you break it loose, you can most of the time take it out by hand. It's really not that tight. Now, we're just going to remove this one all the way, like that. And the top one up here, you don't have to remove it. You can just rotate the caliper up and push it back, and it pops right off, just like this. And then we'll just set that up to the top. Now you see how that piston is pushed back in all the way? That's why I was in there with the pry bar pushing to push that piston back in all the way. So we'll see how that works out if you have to recess it any further. All Now in the back, over here I'll show you. In the back, right up over here, here's those bolts that I was telling you about. You see this bolt right here, that's that 19 millimeter right there. That 19 millimeter and this other 19 millimeter down here. I hope you can see that okay. We need to take out this one as well as the other one there. All right, so let's take those out, and then we're going to take this mounting bracket right off the car. When you're breaking these loose, make sure you're not going to bang your hands and rip your fingers apart and destroy your knuckles. Again, once you break them loose, you can usually take them out by hand. This clip fell off because I had the pry bar in there before, which doesn't really matter because it's all garbage anyway. Don't lose these because you're going to need to put it back together with that. Now, if you're trying to take this out and they don't come out, you can just rock the mounting bracket a little bit and it comes right out. Lose these. And for now, we're just going to put this off to the side and we'll come back to this. Remember what I told you about that pry bar, right? That mounting ear back over here, I'll bring you in there, I'll show you what I mean. You see that mounting ear? Right here? Right there, we're going to get in there with the pry bar directly behind that and the rotor, and then we're going to pull a little pressure on it, we'll bang on it and pop it off. Alright, you just put it behind the ear just like this, and you hold slight pressure, and you pull it, and it pops right off. Now, if you're in here with this, like that, and you can't get it to pop off, you take a hammer, and you bang on it right here, and it'll pop it right off. Now, if you had trouble with getting this off of here, they do make a special tool by OTC to pull this off here. And it hooks around the back and it pops it off, but that's not the case here. We don't need it. And we're just going to grab this and take it off. And the one thing we're going to need, I'll show you real quick, in the back of the rotor, you see this right here? We're going to need to take that out because that's where you adjust your parking brakes from. And we need to take that and put it in the new drum. So we're just going to take it like this, take a screwdriver and push on this and pop it out into your hand without losing it. Okay, now remember I told you about the rotor, right? We're going to clean this up really good, front and back with some brake cleaner. And you just spray it. And you wipe it off. If you have a little bit of grease on there, it's not going to really make a big difference, but you're going to get all of it off as much as you possibly can. And then we're going to turn it over. We're going to do the exact same thing here. Clean it off real good. And that's it, it's nice and clean. Now, if this has a lot of rust on this plate right back in here, on the hub right here, you'll need to clean it off with either sandpaper or a file or whatever. But if there's rust on here, you need to clean it off or you're going to get a pulsating brake pedal when you put this back together. All right, so now we're just going to take the rotor, put it back on. Now we're not going to push it on all the way yet. We're going to grab that little plug that we took out. And the reason I say don't put the whole thing together yet is because when you try to push this in, sometimes it'll pop right inside there and you'll have to take the whole thing apart again. And we just push the corners in just like that. And our plug is back in where it belongs. So that's that. All right, so rotor's on. And now we're going to clean up the caliper mounting bracket and then we'll put this back together. So let's go over to the bench, and I'm going to show you how to replace the hardware, which is right inside here. So let's get over to the bench. Okay. All right, then what we do now is, let's take that. We're going to take our brake pads off. They just push right out. Now, so you put the correct brake pads on. I just want to point this out to you too. You see how this has the indicator this actually snapped off, but that's where the indicator is. You want to make sure you put the correct brake pad on with the indicator in the correct location, which you can see, this is the one that goes on there. All right, so that's the one we're going to keep. And now we know that's the inner brake pad because you can see the circle where the caliper piston was touching. So this one is going to be our inner one. And then the other, obviously, is going to be our outer pad, like that. All right? But before we do that, we're going to take this hardware kit off. We're going to take this hardware off right here, and we'll replace it with the new. We just get back here with a screwdriver and just pry it, like that, and it comes right off. Same thing here. Okay, now, if there's a significant amount of rust inside here, you'll need to clean it off with emery cloth or file or something, but this is nice and clean, so we don't have to worry about anything with that. All right? I'm going to take our new hardware and just put it on like this, and you push it in, and that's how it goes. Right back on just like that. I'm going to do the same thing on this one. Take it and put it on like this, and push it. It goes right back in, just where it's supposed to, just like that. Okay? Now, they do give you grease usually with brake pads, but this is not an adequate amount. So what you're going to do is just, I always get a little bit extra from the tub here. Any place that the brake pad is going to touch, you lubricate. Same thing here and here. All right. Now, remember we said that this pad was the inner pad. So we're going to take the inner pad, push it in here where it belongs, just like this. We're going to put now you can do this later on. You don't have to do this right now, but you can do it on the car itself. I just do it here because it's a little bit easier. All right. And that's how your brakes look when you're ready to put them back in the car. So let's get back over to the car and let's mount our bracket back on there, and we'll wrap this job up. But first we're going to change our gloves. We're going to take our mounting bracket with our new brake pads and hardware kit, put it over the top just like this. And now before you do anything, you squeeze this together. That sets your brake pads so they don't fall out while you're working. And we're going to catch both of our 19mm bolts in the back first. Before you tighten them up, you want to make sure they're both caught. The reason I say that is because if you tighten one bolt up and you don't tighten the other one or catch the other one, it's a possibility that the alignment could be off through the bracket. All right, so we'll screw it in as far as we can by hand, and then we're going to take our 19mm. Nice and tight. Now, there is torque specs for this. I didn't look it up yet, but I will torque these down before this job leaves the shop. All right, next thing we're going to do now is we're going to take our caliper and we're going to see if it fits on. Remember I talked about that piston right there? Sometimes that piston doesn't go in all the way and it causes a problem with binding against the shoe. So we're just going to take this now. I'm going to slide this pin back here just temporarily, just to see if it fits. And as you can see, it does fit over the top because we pushed that piston back in. But if that piston was not pushed in all the way and you needed to recess this a little bit more, the way you would do that is you would take the brake pad here and a brake pad here, and you would take a tool like this, put it in here, like that, and then you tighten it, and it'll push that piston all the way back in, just in case it didn't go in far enough. You see what it does? It pushes that piston back in. That's not the case here. We already pushed it in far enough, so we don't have to worry about that. Okay, now, before we finish this job off, every place that the brake pad touches, you want to put a little bit of silicone. Just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit. We want to lubricate the slide pins, again, just a little bit. And we'll put it back in here, like that. So now every place that that's going to touch has been lubricated. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to get that last bolt in down the bottom. Okay, so you rotate this down and you just push it over the top like this, and you just make sure that little rubber gasket in the back is okay. And then we're going to put the bolt back in and screw it in by hand. Now, even though we did not loosen that one up, I always check to make sure that it's tight, which it is. All right, so that's it. That's all back together. This side is okay. All right, so that's it. You're all set. All right, now, before you take this out and drive it, get in the car, pump that brake pedal up, and make sure that your pedal is up on top before you drive it, because otherwise the first time you step on it, that's going to go to the floor, which is normal because you have to get that piston pushed back out to where you pushed it back in. All right, so make sure you do that. That's it, you're all set. Obviously, I'm going to do the other side before we do that, but that's it, we're done. As always, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.